Hey, Cubs fans, and welcome to another sad episode of Cubs on Tap. I am your Ron Burgundy tonight. Ronald Luce has the night off. Not really, though. He is doing some Blackhawks coverage for us tonight, as the Blackhawks have drafted Mr. Connor Bedard as their number one pick. Tonight, I am with the one, the only Joey Knows Nothing. And we both had the same thoughts coming into tonight's game. Not smiling after this one. That'll be the episode name for tonight. Joey, how you doing, buddy?
Not good, not bad, I guess. I guess I could be better is the right way to put that. They lost. We're not smiling, but it's good to see your face, and it's good to be on this mic. And, I'd rather lose like this with the bad outing out of the rotation than the bullpen blowing it, I guess. So, yeah, this is what we got, I guess. This is what we got. We can never put it all together, like you were saying pre-show. So, yeah, man.
Yeah,
how are you doing?
I'm good. We had a really short pre-show. A lot of times we'll sit and we'll bullshit on this. More or less, Joey and I were, chomping at the bit to get on here and talk about some Cubs baseball. I know we got some thoughts regarding this series so far. Ron and I did last night's show, and I wanted your opinion on if this series was a little unfair for them scheduling this one. All things considered, the road back from London with the one off day, and the Phillies playing good baseball. I felt like and Scott kind of puts it pretty well here. The baseball gods hate us. Why? Yeah, it's a good question, Scott. There's a lot that's going on, but the fact of the matter is, man, is we can't play the Pirates every week. That's a lot of this. And I'm not going to say that they played horrible baseball. They did take 2 or 3 from the O's, but. Without the Pirates on the schedule, this doesn't look as good this month, and the Pirates are free falling at this point. So I don't know what to make of this team. And as somebody who I very much respect your baseball thoughts, I want you to make sense of the 2023 Chicago Cubs for me in just a short spurt.
Well, first of all, I appreciate that. Because, it's, I feel like we've watched this team enough, and you and I both go back and forth on stuff all the time. And even when we're not on the show and, just text messages and whatnot. And yeah, man, it's tough to make this team out, really. And I sat on the show with Tyler the other day, and I don't know if it was a bold take, but I said that the division is theirs for the taking. It's their division to lose. And I meant that more so like playing up to talent level, playing up to the division as a whole is not terrific. We've said it a number of times, but yeah, I don't know what to make of this team. It's still like we're almost in July, and I still do not know the identity of the Chicago Cubs this season in 2023. I feel pretty good about where they're at defensively. Most of the time you feel good about where they're at starting pitching-wise. Now the bats are kind of coming to life. 5 runs. If you told me they get 5 runs, there was a lot of missed opportunities still tonight.
Yeah.
Felt like that 5th inning could have really been, a little bit more there.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know, man. It's really tough. And I kind of, we'll get into like the specifics of tonight, but I do feel like, kind of to your point and to what Scott was saying in the comments, I think that this trip, maybe just going there and then leaving there. Going there is one thing, and then you had 2 off days before the series, but you only had 1 off day after the series. So it's like double whammy as far as flights go pretty quickly for that type of trip. So, the Phillies can hit. I don't know. It's a very tough, I don't want to underscore or undersell what happened tonight as far as like, oh, well, this is just bad break, unlucky God. baseball because like Smiley didn't pitch well tonight. That's what it was. But I also don't want to like overreact and be like, well, this team's done. Stick a fork in them. They've lost 3 in a row. You know, we could easily go that route.
Yeah, 100%. And I just think that if this London series were 4 weeks ahead, meaning that they played it in May sometimes, or sometime in May, we probably are looking at ourselves like, thank God we needed it. But in the case of the Cubs, they were playing good baseball going into it, and then so many off days, and then you're going over the pond and playing a weird 2-game series in a ballpark that's not yours, and then you have to fly all the way back and then play underneath all the smog from the Canadian fires that are going on. And they don't seem, last night's baseball game for them didn't seem to have a rhythm, and tonight's baseball game for a lot of it didn't seem to have a rhythm. The only thing I'll say is that I think somewhat after that 4th inning, they kind of did a little bit. They started to, chip away at the lead and come back, and they did give up 2, which ended up being 2 huge runs for insurance post, the home run from Castellanos. They ended up tacking on two innings in a row where the Cubs had scored, and you really need those shutdown innings there. So I thought that tonight's ball game, I do want to just jump in, first of all, to Smiley and talk about the pitching, because I think that in terms of him, his last 2 starts have been kind of interesting. He really battled through the 5 innings against the Pirates and didn't have his best curveball. And tonight, obviously didn't have his best stuff. Do you think this is a precursor of something of him kind of falling off? Or do you think are you seeing that this is just a bump in the road?
I don't know, but I do know is I was interested enough to go and look up some stuff with Smiley. So the last 31 innings pitched. This is from May 28th, last time he faced the Reds, or it was the May 28th outing against the Reds. Last 6 starts. You're looking at about a month now because we're, June 28th today. So 31 innings pitched, 6.39 ERA since that start, or the beginning of that start, basically. That's a full month of some pretty bad with some like semi-good mixed in, but you mentioned it, he didn't have his best stuff and he kind of went through the 5 innings the last time. So in that span, even before tonight, with the 5 starts leading up to tonight, he had an ERA close to 5 in those 5 starts, 4.94, I think it was. He threw 18 curveballs in the first inning tonight. The second inning, he came out and he wouldn't throw a curveball until the 1-2 pitch against Edmundo Sosa. Wrong Sosa, by the way. We don't want to root for this one. Spanked it into the left field bleachers, just left it over the plate. He needed to bury that pitch. It's a 1-2 count. You're missing location, obviously, on that. A lot of the damage tonight, the Castellanos home run, that was a curveball. The double by Castellanos, that was a curveball. I mean, some of the damage, that's still his whiff pitch. He got the most whiffs, I think, tonight on that pitch. But when you're not locating that curveball for him, which he throws it at such a high clip, there's some serious concern there. And I don't know if he's losing the feel of it. It's obvious he didn't have it tonight, but it seems like he hasn't had it for a little bit now. And you're going to need him to kind of find that grip and that feel for that curveball for him to be effective, because he's not an overpowering pitcher. He's not sharp enough that way to just get away with those pitches. So I think early in the season you saw that he was a little bit more crisp. Now you're not seeing the crispness, which kind of concerns me, because usually it's the other way around. You start off slow and you find the crispness as the season goes. And I don't know what that means, but hopefully you can correct it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think too, like you hit the nail on the head in terms of, he throws that at a 40 to 45%, rate in most ball games. When you don't have that and you're working with that 91, 92 mile an hour fastball in on the hands, which essentially is a cutter. He pretty much throws a cutter as his fastball.
Mm-hmm.
And that sinker that, I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong, but it's not that curveball level. And that curveball kind of sets up all those pitches. That over the top, Bugs Bunny-ish, kind of over the left side of the outside of the plate, kind of allows him to come in and get on the hands. We were kind of, I don't know if it was you or Ron, we were talking about how he reminds me a lot of like Ted Lilly. Like Ted Lilly would throw that curveball in the outside corner, and then opposed to every other lefty that's trying to backdoor that fastball with some cut action, he likes to really get in on right-handed hitters. So that was Ted Lilly in just a nutshell in those 08 runs, in 07. Like that was exactly what, when you watch Ted Lilly pitch, he was always trying to get in on the hands. But hitters can bail on it if they know he doesn't have the curveball. They can sit in and they can hope that he's going to catch more in the middle of the plate with the curve when he's not finding that, off the plate, catching the corner curveball. Now they know he's in. So they can sit one spot. And that's exactly what happened tonight. Pull home runs, pull down the line, hard hit everywhere because everybody on that Phillies team was looking in. And it's a problem. But the silver lining to this, and I'm going to bring up another pitcher who pitched tonight, Hayden Wesneski looks crisp. And I think that we may have some type of controversy on if he should be pitching in the starting rotation, considering the fact that the numbers you just brought up from Smiley and what we've seen out of Jameson Taillon for this whole season. Mind you, money talks. We've talked about the show before. If you're making $17 million, 9 times out of 10, a team is going to run you out and make you figure it out. I don't think that we're getting to a point where Taillon is going to be sent to the bullpen or emergency, fake injury, whatever. But it's becoming more and more noticeable that a guy like that and Hayden Wesneski needs to pitch more. And I think that we've seen him a decent amount, but I think that maybe he's carving out a little bit bigger of a role on this team. And a lot has changed since they've brought up, in my opinion, are the best available arms that they can right now. The ones that make the most sense seem to be in that bullpen right now, regardless of if they can go 4, 5, 3, 2, 1, whatever. So I don't know. I want your opinion on Hayden Wesneski and what you think about what you've seen from that young man since he's come up and rejoined the big league team.
I love what I'm seeing. I mean, tonight he was just, like you said, crisp. He had the slider cooking. He was hitting 96, 97 on the fastball. I mean, that's something that's impressive because he doesn't always hit that. I mean, that's, they even mentioned on the broadcast how he kind of, I think Boog was saying how his velocity dips to sometimes 91. And then look at that. Now it's at 97. Where does that come from? I don't know if that's by design with Wesneski or if that's just him being fresh out of the pen. But he did drop down a couple times even in this game. So I'm wondering if he's using the fastball velo as kind of a little bit of a changeup mixed in with the fastball. I know it's not a changeup, but it kind of feels like it could be a changeup. And whatever it is, it's been really it's effective though, like it was tonight. And out of that bullpen role, my question starts to become though, if you put them in the rotation, and I don't really want to see them move Taillon out only because of the fan reaction right now.
Yeah.
I feel like the fan reaction to that is going to be, oh my God. And I told Tyler this the other night. It's another Tyler Chatwood situation where you paid big money for a starter in free agency and now he's in the bullpen and look what we did. We wasted a ton of money. And I would much rather a guy like that go through these lumps and figure it out and get back to being a good starter like we've seen in this league rather than getting dropped out of the rotation. But at the same time, a team that's in the playoff hunt like the Cubs are, and it's weird to say that when they're under 500, but they are, how many bullets can you waste? Like, how many rotation spots, especially when you start a series with Jameson Taillon. Starting the series with him is the problem. Like, he can't start series because it gets you off on a bad note. And that's it's tough because you just have to roll him out there every fifth day, though. You don't align those things. But with Wesneski, man, I don't know if he's more effective out of the bullpen right now. Maybe that's the case, but I do think he's long-term a starter still. So maybe you just bite the bullet and put him back in. I don't know. What are you thinking?
I want to see his growth as a starter. And the problem that I have with right now is, what's the year about? Is the year about competing? If that's the case, how many more times, like you said, can you run Jameson Taillon out there? How many more times can you? Now, you mentioned an interesting thing about you can't start a series with Jameson Taillon. And I will say this. I get the thought process on why they did it, because I think it sets their starting rotation for that Brewers series, which I think that they look as a very pivotal beginning of next month, and kind of something that Ron and I were talking a lot about the schedule going into next month, because obviously we're only 2 games left in the month of June, but there's a lot of winnable series. They're going to play Cleveland here. Cleveland, you really don't know what Cleveland you're going to get. You're going to play 4 against the Brewers, which you don't know. They pitch well, but who knows if they're going to be able to hit enough to supplement the pitching. They're going to play the Yankees. The Yankees, good baseball team, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they took 2 or 3 from that series, the Cubs. And then they play Boston, and then they do 3 in a row with Washington, who's awful, St. Louis, who, again, free fall, and the White Sox, St. Louis again, and then they have the Red series, which by that time, the Reds may have cooled off, and who knows? So there's a lot of winnable baseball coming up, and that's why I look at the month of July like, that's it. If the Cubs are 500 in that month, they're not making the playoffs. The Cubs need to make hay against the White Sox, the Nationals, the Cardinals that they're going to see a bunch in that month, Boston, who's average, Cleveland at the end of this month, and then to begin it. There's a lot of winnable series in there that you could look up and say, another sweep. There's no reason why they can't do that if they play their style of baseball. But it goes back to my point that if you want to win those games, the best pitcher's got to pitch. And to me, it's regardless of what he makes or they make or what it means for development in the future. Like, what is this about? Is it about winning baseball games this year? Is it about development? Is it a mix of both? Because in my experience, and I don't know if you agree with this, when you're trying to do both, you fail every time. Every time. So my problem becomes is what is it about? I wish I knew, and I've asked this question probably too much on this show, but I feel like I haven't gotten a good answer from anybody.
It's
right?
tough to know, right? It's tough to, without them saying anything about it, we don't truly know. It feels like within the organization, they think they can win this year. But
win what? What is winning to them? Winning the division at 86 wins? I mean, we're at the point now where that's a possibility. The team that's over 500 at the end of this maybe makes playoffs. That team probably gets rolled by the Braves or, any combination of LA, Arizona, even the East. If you look at what the Phillies can do, if you look at I'm probably even forgetting the
Braves.
I said, yeah, the Braves were first, but
yeah.
But I mean, there
It's
whoever wins this division is going to be the worst division winner in the playoffs this year, right? I mean, you'll probably look at a wild card team that's better because there's only one can win that West. And the Diamondbacks are playing well, and the Dodgers are still good no matter what because they have 17,000 injuries, but they still find some guy in their minor league system that they drafted with like pick 160 that I'm like, where the hell did this guy come from? They're still like fifth in baseball with their farm system or something stupid like that. They're that damn good. I want to know what tonight and what this whole series and this season means. Like, what is it about? And to me, when you have a chance to win, you go win. And I think that some of these things that we're talking about, they kind of add together. Like, you can win right now with Hayden Wisniewski in your rotation and still develop him.
Yeah.
But my question to you in that scenario is David Ross a good enough manager to do that simultaneously?
I don't know, man. And some of that also comes down to like what is going on behind the scenes with we say the pitch lab all the time, but like Tommy Hotovy, these guys that are working with the pitchers every day, like what's going on that side of things, because as we've seen, the bullpen has been an issue for most of the season. Now maybe they're starting to figure it out, but maybe some of that work behind the scenes with Wisniewski is starting to get, on track a little bit more. Obviously, he's made some changes to even his delivery and windup and the way that he's going about throwing the baseball. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of that would be totally on Ross, but at the same time, the decision has to come from either Ross, his communication with Hoyer and Hawkins, because we know that they talk pretty regularly, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd trust him to make the right decision and be able to coach him up, so to speak, if he's in the rotation. But at the same time, it's kind of worth a shot, right? Like, you're not getting anything better from Jameson Taillon at this point, and I don't feel good about him turning it around anytime soon. So if it is about winning and it is about development, you're kind of leading yourself into your own answer there, like you were saying, and maybe it is just time to kind of pull the plug on it. I just know the negative response to that is going to be
it'd be brutal.
And
we've been talking a lot about Jameson Taillon's spot in this rotation. Are you starting to think Smiley's maybe in that same conversation, considering the fact that all those numbers that you brought up earlier? I mean, is that fair to bring that up?
It's fair. I think he earned himself a little bit more leash. Like the other show, before I had really dove in, like after this outing during the game, looking into like those numbers and kind of eyeball test, I was just kind of thinking, well, he's had a really good season this year. He's been really solid, and he started out very strong. And that game where he's Jan's riding him, and he almost had the no-hitter, whatever it was. In that game, but he's had a lot of strong starts, but maybe the leash is getting a little bit shorter here with Smiley because, another part of this is in the bullpen, you need a lefty arm.
Yes.
And Smiley could be that veteran lefty arm out of the pen.
He's done it already before. He's been out in the pen at certain times in his career.
So I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know what the answer is because if he's locked in the rotation, like I was feeling pretty good about him being the third starter before Hendricks got back, like we were calling him the third starter. We said there's no Jameson Taillon, there's no like whatever 1 through 3 were pretty set if the playoffs were to start today. Now I'm kind of changing my tune, but I feel like he's earned at least another couple two tree starts. Like I don't know.
Question to you, and it's an interesting one, and hopefully we get to that. But if there were a game 4, who is pitching a game 4 for you? And there's
no one.
Who?
Just toss the ball up in the air, do an ephus, underhand.
I'm serious, man. It's honestly, I'm going Hayden Wesneski. The strikeout stuff, he's looked better than all of them. And if you could answer that question that way, it's worth a conversation. I don't know.
I'll say this too, Juice. Like, if he gives you 4 innings, 4 solid innings in a game 4 situation, I mean, then it becomes a bullpen game anyways. You can kind of mix and match and play around with it. You can bring Smiley out of the pen. You can bring whoever you want out of the pen. I don't hate that idea. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but like maybe it's Wesneski at this point. Maybe he just needs to be in that rotation. You just kind of play bullpen game. I don't know.
I was really impressed with him tonight. We're going to move on a little bit here. Move on to the lineup. Excuse me. Mexican food tonight, so a little bit of refried bean coming up here. But this Cubs offense, I feel like there's a way of knowing what you're going to get based on, and listen to my theory and tell me if I'm nuts. When this Cubs offense is running good, they score first. When they're not, they don't score until like the 4th. Like I feel like you could watch the first 3 innings of a Cubs game and know if they're going to win or lose. Am I nuts on that?
Maybe not. I don't know. I never really thought about it that way, but it's not the craziest thought to have, because watching this team, it does feel like they strike early when they're winning the games. Like it's a very quick strike. You know, maybe you see a 3-run homer or solo shot earlier in the 2nd inning or something, and then they start to kind of roll. Tonight, though, watching this game, I liked how they were fighting.
Yeah, they fought back.
They fought back. Some of the at-bats, too, like I think it was the 5th inning, right? Nico, great play discipline to draw that walk, bases loaded. Morel, he fell down 0-2. And
works the walk.
Yeah, 4 straight balls, I think it was. Worked the walk. Laid off some tough, like that last pitch, very tough pitch to lay off on 3-2. You wouldn't really expect that to kind of be the pitch there, but it was. Nice breaking ball, it looked like, from Nola. But, yeah, I mean, there's something. It seems like there is something to your theory there. I don't know, like, you know.
Stats behind it or anything like that. If this team falls behind early, they're just not built to come back. Like, they don't have that whopping power to where, you know, it's a walk, a bloop, and a bomb. You know what I mean? Like, they have to pepper the ball around the field and hit, you know, continuous singles or doubles in the game. Like, there's just no like quick strike. You know, we talk about in football, like, the great thing about Justin Fields is, like, anytime he has the football, like, he could go to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's just, like, name a guy on this team right now that when he's at bat, you're like, there's a good chance, like, this is going out of the park. I mean, it was Belly for the longest time, but he's kind of struggled since getting back. And, I mean, he's starting to put some better at-bats together. I'll say that. I think we're starting to see Belly kind of make the turn. But I don't know, man. Like, there's just not that power. And they're just, like, they're trying so hard. There was a stat saying that they get the lowest amount of slugging out of their 3 spot than any team in the league. And, I mean, that's with Oakland.
It's gross.
Like, Oakland's trying to lose. And it's not a shot at, like, Ian Happ or, Seiya Suzuki or Christopher Morel or any of these guys that they put in that 3-hole. That just doesn't exist on the Cubs. There's not a 3-hole hitter. It's like a lineup of 5 and 2-hole hitters. Guys who can work the bat and work it into the gap and put together good at-bats. And you need those guys. But I want that big dumb idiot with the big bat that is swinging out of his shoes and hitting home runs. And anytime honestly, Pete Alonso is the greatest analogy for this. That's what you need. You need just that big bear in the middle of your lineup that pitchers are thinking about 3 hitters before. And that's just not – when I watch pitchers attack this Cubs lineup, they don't look like concerned, like they have to get the batter there. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of these guys can work around and be like, all right, well, if I walk this guy, it doesn't matter because another guy who's gap to gap's coming up. And as long as I stay out of, the middle of the plate, there's just not the power in this lineup for them to, take a 95-mile-an-hour fastball in the corner of right field. There's just not that in the lineup that makes you think like, man, if I walk this guy, then I got to face, that middle of the order that can put up crooked numbers in a hurry. And I want your opinion, like, is there a good way to set this lineup to where I'm not nuts and saying everything on this show is bullshit? Because, there's this – to me, they've painted Ross into a corner of stack the 5 and 2-hole hitters the best you can. And we scream about it, but what can you do? This is what he's working with.
It feels like the way that they constructed this lineup was they were hoping for a collection of 25 home run hitters. Like, and that's fine. Like, in theory, that makes sense. But what you're saying about that one guy who just excels at that, right? Maybe that could have been Patrick Wisdom, but it's clear that he's just way too damn streaky to the point where you just can't do that. Same with Morel even at this point. Like, for a split second in this game, I thought Morel could have been the guy that unloads one and just makes us go nuts, right? But he's not at that point yet where he's truly feared and revered within the league because he whiffs so damn much even within the zone. So if you miss with a pitch in the zone, he's not always going to hammer it. It's just not the case with him right now. So I don't know, man. You definitely need that guy. I mean, I hate to go back to old times here because I absolutely get upset when we start doing this, or like when everyone else starts talking about the old times and we need this guy back and blah, blah, blah. But Kyle Schwarber would absolutely look beautiful in a Cubs uniform right now. He would. And that's the guy that like is hitting below 200, I believe, right now. Maybe it's not quite that anymore, but he gives you that power, that feared, revered, could launch at any time, don't miss to this guy power. We don't quite have that right now, and it's hopefully you hope Bellinger gets hot again. We were hoping for more from Seiya, I think, from that power aspect point, and he's kind of slumping and obviously had up tonight off because of what do they say, neck or something like that.
I don't. He's.
But I don't know.
That's a Cub that I mentioned last night's show. That I'm sitting and I'm like, what is Seiya Suzuki?
I don't know.
Is he good? Is he overrated? Are we looking at a guy that is the package, or is he a supplemental piece to this whole thing? I think you're right. I think a lot of people thought like shoe in 30 home run guy, 100 RBIs. But now you look at it and you're like, man, like they just signed another 5-hole hitter. Like that's
what it feels like. Maybe
it really does.
Yeah. And you thought he was going to steal a ton of bases and be, on base freak, which he's been okay at, but it's not exactly what we thought. I don't believe that's not what we were thinking we were getting. And to your point about like lineup construction, I thought Ron Coomer actually made a really good point on. I was listening to 670 The Score. It was either today or yesterday. I think it was today though, and I believe he said put the second baseman at the 4 hole, and I'm pretty sure he was talking about Nico Horner hitting 4th, and that kind of like perked my ears up a little bit. Like, I think he said Hap leading off. I think it was Dansby at the 2 hole, and then it could have been Seiya at the
Belly.
Yeah, or Belly at the 3 hole, but Nico for sure at the 4 hole, and I'm like, I kind of see that with the RBI aspect and kind of like 2-out clutch hitting and just move the chains, and then you get to that 5-hole hitter, which should be really your 4-hole hitter, but maybe you're up a run at that point or two, and then he comes up and could go gap to gap maybe instead
Or
of
try to run into one. Yeah. I
It doesn't really make sense in modern day baseball at all, but
you got to try something,
yeah.
right? I mean, tonight isn't the night that we should be sitting at. I mean, they did score 5 runs, like you said early on. If they score 5, they should have a good chance of winning any baseball game. But I don't know, man. It seems like the things that this baseball team needs to take that next step are going to be very difficult to acquire, because let's face it, like look up and down the farm system here, and if it's not Matt Mervis, which we saw how that worked out here, he wasn't bad, but now he's back in Iowa trying to figure things out. There's not a lot of power, guaranteed power in that system. I know Canario came back, and that's a guy I'd circle and have, at least a little bit of faith. But let's face it. Kevin Alcantara is a while away. He's not going to have the PCA run where he ends up, jumping levels like crazy. And Pedro Armstrong has some power, but he's not going to be a 3-hole hitter. That's just not who he is. And I think in a lot of ways, maybe they thought that Brennan Davis was going to be that, and they could find a place for him to play eventually, but he's struggling and maybe still hurt, and who knows? And that's but you look at that, and then you look at like this team really needs like that next just feared starter too. Like I love Stroh and I love Justin Steele and I love, but like there's a different way that batters walk up to face like a Max Scherzer, right? Or like a Clayton Kershaw or like a Walker Buehler. There's just a different feeling of how every pitch means so much more because it may be the only pitch you get to hit in the at-bat. And I like Stroman. He's been fantastic. And I like Steele. He's also been fantastic. Probably both going to be all-stars. But like that fear, like I need game 1. Take the ball and that you're getting, 7 innings of 1-run ball game or 1-run ball from that pitcher. Like that's exactly what this team needs. And it seems like they need that. And then they need a middle of the order, just power slugger. And both of those are difficult to find because ball clubs just don't let that walk out the door. They don't. They pay it. And there's not a free agent in this class that you're going to get a bargain for when you need both of that. And I know that everyone's going to listen to this and say, oh, Shohei Ohtani, You do realize there's going to be like 10 teams that offer him the same contract. And you're going to be – it's like a lottery ticket at that point. You're going to put together your presentation and all that, but at the end of the day, he's going to look at it and go, yeah, I'll play there. And if it's not you and you've put all of your eggs into that basket, there's just not any supplemental way to fix that in next free agency. There's just not. Like, there's not 4 shortstops like there were last year. There's a few guys you can look at, but they're going to have to be really creative to fix what's going on with this team in the future.
That's why I got, for a split second in the offseason, I got my hopes up for the Bogarts and Swanson dream. Because, I still think that would have made a ton of sense to get the third base and the shortstop all in one swoop. And now you look at it, and you better hack the Powerball system or something to get Shohei Ohtani. I don't. It's going to be extremely hard to land him because the price is only going to go up as he plays better and better and better. It feels like every time he goes out on the field, he's getting talked up, even when he's not playing in games. It's obviously it's crazy to see what he's doing, but this team is just it's the holes that we know that they have that we don't know if we can solve anytime soon. And that was what worries you the most. I do feel good about the farm system from a pitching standpoint. Ben Brown, Wesneski even here right now, but how long is that going to take to really kind of put itself together where you're not like the Tampa Bay Rays and the guy just comes up and dominates, right?
Yeah.
They get somebody coming up, Shane McClanahan right away immediately, which maybe a different echelon of a prospect pitcher too. Not saying anything like that, but the guys out of nowhere that just come in and dominate. And I don't see that really. The Cubs aren't trusted enough from that regard of development yet to be I can for sure say that this guy's going to come in. We've seen it already with Caleb Killian. Where's he been?
Yeah.
Right?
That's and everybody said, and they said it to all of you. Yeah, I think we got something here. We just got to do this to him and this to him. Not seeing it.
I'm not seeing it at all.
Just
What are your thoughts, Juice, on what are your thoughts on Jared Young tonight? We should probably talk about him.
I was hoping we'd get into that just a little bit. I like the idea of him playing first base more often. I do. I think that is doable. I think that at the point you're at with that position, every day that you play belly at that position, you're taking him away from an outfield that needs defensive runs saved. They flashed the graphic today. They are great around the infield. They are one of the worst in baseball in terms of defensive runs saved in the outfield. And it's because they play a million different guys at the positions of center field and right field. And Seiya Suzuki is okay, but he's not. I think we would all kind of say that he's not what we expected as a fielder either.
Exactly.
I think that when he came here, he was hyped up the fact that he plays such great defense. He's been serviceable, but not enough to where you're like, man, he really plays a lot of great defense.
I did it. I hyped him up. I thought he was
we all
better.
did. I think we all did, and that was the scouting report. How great he was defensively over in Japan. But to me, every day that you play belly at first, you're taking a Gold Glover away from a position of need. Let's face it, center field is, and it's you're the point guard of the outfield. You make everything go at that point. And the more and more you play him there, the more you're taking him away from his best position. So I'm okay with it. I hope I never see Mancini at first ever again. I think that's a problem. And I think Cub fans are wearing thin with Trey Mancini. I know Jeremiah is. He's somebody who wants to play Jared Young every day. I'm okay with it. I think at this point, with the power that they've gotten out of Mancini, who's to say that Jared Young can't do the same? I don't know. There's just so much about this team that you don't know what you're getting when you throw out. It's almost like the reverse Joe Madden. like when Joe Madden would put like a lineup together and play all these different lineups, you're like, all right, at least like he does it because he knows he can play around with certain guys and put certain guys in certain positions because he feels he's going to find a matchup within that day that he can be in the 7th slot. And he's going to run into one with runners on base because, he's thought that David Ross more or less is putting lineups together because he's just trying to find something. He's just trying to find if you told us tomorrow that the lineup that David Ross would put out would produce 6 runs a game, David Ross would play that lineup for the rest of the year. It would be the same lineup every day. The problem, I don't think it exists. I think which just goes back to that conversation we were just having. It's just a bunch of 5-hole hitters and a bunch of 2-hole hitters and some guys who can, spray the ball around, but there's just no power. And he's trying to find it. I feel for him. I would too. I'd be trying a bunch of different people. And who's to say that Jared Young isn't, a guy that you can put around in that lineup and get something out of it. But I don't know, man. I like him. I like a lot about his game. And I'm okay with them giving him a good run at first base. If that's the hope. But I think this all comes back eventually to Matt Mervis. I don't think we've seen the last of Matt Mervis at the big league level this year because there's going to become a time in this season where you're going to need to slug for power, and it's here. But like June and July, like those games can get crooked. Like you could see a lot of 10-9ers, 9-8s, like, and the Cubs just aren't built to win those games, and maybe. Matt Mervis is one of those guys that they can find with some lefty pop to put in this lineup and give another chance at this level. But until then, while Jared Young's here, I'm fine with it. Until they figure out who he is and how to attack him, I'd exploit it. I mean, that's the thing too. Nobody really probably has a scouting report on him, so he's going to see a lot of hittable stuff for the beginning of his little Cubs tenure. I know he was here last year, but. I don't know. I like him. Do you like him? What's your opinions on him?
I like him too, and I think there's something to be said about a guy that has worked so long in the minors too, like they were talking about on the broadcast. That we've easily seen this not pan out too, where a guy comes up and gets hot, and then like Frank Schwindel, for example. Not saying it's the same level by any means. I do like him. I think he has a way more power than a Frank Schwindel type of hitter, and he's left-handed, which also helps because this team desperately needs a nice left-handed bat, especially a power hitter. So, that was a no-doubter tonight. First at-bat.
A lot of power.
Since returning. But to your point, too, about Mervis, I truly still believe in Matt Mervis, and I was, while you were talking, I went back and looked at what Alex Cohen had tweeted about him, and triple to right center in his first at bat with the Iowa Cubs since Wednesday. Mervis is hitting .353, 6 for 17 since being optioned. So good to see him go down there and just start taking care of business already. I love seeing that. I don't think we've seen the last of him by any means either. Another guy who could be an option at some point. You're going to laugh at this. Let Nelly V swim, baby.
Dude, Scott already here, too. If it was
it?
about winning, Morel would be at third, Nelly V and Yohan Peraza would be on the bench. Ben Brown would be starting. I think the Ben Brown one is – I think that's the longest shot out of all those things that are on there. I mean, I think a lot of people fail to remember, too, that, like, spaces need to be made on the 40-man for all these guys. And there's not guys that are going to release to waivers. So a lot of those names.
Who did they move to the 60-day just to open the spot for Young? It was
Brandon Hughes. That hurts so bad. I feel so bad for that kid. And he's worked his ass off to get back. But yeah, back to you're going to name another name that could – so Nelly V is your guy that you think he's on the 40-man.
Yeah, I don't – it's tough with Nelly though. I could see that if you DFA a Mancini, because then you're looking for that right-handed hitter that could hit lefties probably pretty well. I could see that, and I'm not going to bank on that. He did launch one that I just saw. Scott tagged me on it actually earlier today. I do really think he's got that power upside bat, but is he truly ready right now this time too? That's another question, and I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if Jared Young's the answer either. I think it goes back to your original point, though. The Cubs and David Ross are truly searching for that power hitter. Don't know where it's going to come from. You have no consistency from that department. You have hot stretches followed by abysmal cold stretches where, like, the dude should be thrown in a freezer because he's so freaking cold and he's striking out every – I mean, Morel, when he's in his cold stretches, as good as he's been this year, overall numbers aside, he's striking out 2-3 times in games and providing nothing other times. It's very just hot Jekyll and Hyde that way. And
or Heckle and Hyde.
What did I? Heckle and Hyde.
Or Heckle and Hyde.
Heckle and Hyde. But
Heckle and Hyde.
I don't fucking know, man.
Yeah,
you know what? This fog is killing me. My head's fucked up. We're all fucked up.
You're before the fog, you were fucked up. But go on about Nelly V here, and I was even gonna ask, and I know they just sent him on a rehab assignment. Scott from Iowa's guy, Patrick Wisdom. You think there's a chance that by the end of it, Patrick Wisdom is a DFA candidate?
I think there's a chance that he's a DFA candidate, but I also think there's a chance that he's back up here and playing first base and Belly goes back to center. Because
man, I hope not.
I mean, he's taking first base reps, right? I think Morel might be taking first base reps too, though. I thought I saw.
There's. I
don't know, Juice. You're gonna have to live.
It's bad. You know it's gotten bad when at third base, like I'm not minding Nick Madrigal as much as I did
right
at the beginning of the season, and that's, I mean,
credit to him though. He's been hitting pretty decent.
But you got to get power out of it. Like there's certain positions on a baseball field that you have to get power out of. Like you have to get it out of first base. You have to get it out of third base. You have to get it out of either left field or right field. Like it's just the game has been along for so long, and we always try to reinvent the wheel. Excuse me. Again, refried beans. But we try to reinvent the wheel all the time, right? But baseball is pretty damn simple. The guys who usually play short and second are speedy guys who put the bat on the ball. Same thing with center field. Same thing. Left field is hit or miss. You can either hide a guy out there with some power, or have a guy like Ian Happ, who is a great, 5 or 2 hole hitter that could pepper it around and be a good defensive left fielder. But right field and third base and first base and catcher, you gotta have guys who can just run into the baseball. And if you look at the way the Cubs are built right now, they don't have that at any of those positions currently.
The only way that you get around not having a guy that hits for big power at third base is you have a Jeff Kent-like player at second base.
Yeah.
Who can hit for power at second base. We don't have that.
Yeah, we don't. We're like a Dan Ugla. He'd make a bunch of errors, but he was going to smoke you 25 or 30. I don't know.
So it's tough. I don't.
This guy comes in. We see now we opened up a bag of worms here. Now we're going to talk about how many guys have more than 13 homers on the Cubs. Just wisdom. Yeah. Well,
all right.
That's how bad. Yeah. That's how bad this lineup is power wise. Guy who hasn't played in a month is still probably leading the team in home runs.
Isn't that sad?
That's the saddest part of it. I think
I could probably hit a home run. Just put me out there. 1 home run. I'll give you one.
So? Just one?
Just one.
I pegged you as like a Nick Madrigal guy, like real scrappy. Got to throw your whole body into your throws.
Oh, dude, right now, I need to throw my whole body in. I'm sprinting towards first base, which, by the way, JD totally hit it on the button. I've never heard him say that before. Maybe I've just missed it. But like 15 minutes before that, it was one of the things I always noticed with Madrigal, or how he does those like 500 shuffle steps, sprints towards first base and throws it. He still gets the guy. He does good at third.
Dude, he like pretty much runs the ball halfway across the infield.
Yeah.
Before he throws it.
He's winding up like he's bowling. Like,
dude, he's got. I said it earlier on in the Cubs on Tap episode. He throws his whole body into that throw. His whole body.
JD called it a traveling violation tonight, and they were going like,
"Oh, I fucking love that."
And I was like,
missed that. I missed that.
That's it. That's fucking it, JD. I love you.
A little bit of Euro stuff from Nicky Two Bags.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know. All right, Joey. Anything else on tonight's ball game?
Oh man, just please turn it around for our sanity. We have 4 games left in this homestand, and I mean, you really need to probably take care of all business in all 4 of them. At least come out with a split, because man, this July schedule. You were talking about Milwaukee and Cincinnati and having to face those teams. I think not only do you have to be over 500 in this July, but if you don't take care of business over those teams, you're done, because Cincinnati and Milwaukee, one of those 2 teams, are probably going to start feeling themselves if you lose those head-to-head matchups, and they're separating themselves. So you really have to kind of figure shit out now. And it's not just about buying and selling and, selling or buying or what decision you're making. It doesn't matter necessarily in that regard, but because I think I really think they should be somewhat buying regardless, because you got to add from somewhere. It doesn't matter if it's free agency or the trade. You just have to add from somewhere. But just take care of business, man. I don't know. 5 runs is nice to see them. We did kind of shit on the offense a little bit today, but I'd be okay if you told me 5 runs a game. I'm totally fine with that, with this rotation mostly. Like, if you're going to get 2 or 3 guys on a consistent basis pitching pretty well, I'll take 5 runs, and we're going to have to live with it without that huge power bat, I feel like. So
yeah, my comment is hit home runs with people on base. I feel like, too, the Cubs hit like so many solo home runs, dude.
That'd be nice.
When they do hit home runs, they're never like of the 2 and the 3 and the Grand Slam variety. They're always of like single solo home runs. Solo home runs are cool. I'll take them when they're back to back to back, but I want crooked numbers. I don't want just singles. Let's preview tomorrow's game, because tomorrow is the final game of the 3-game set here. I'm going to go back. I know it's Kyle Hendricks and Taijuan Walker tomorrow. I'm not even going to look it up because I know that's right. Tomorrow's ball game is sometime tomorrow. You can find it on Google. Ron tells you when. I don't. I say find it on Google. What do they got to do to win tomorrow?
What are you thinking?
I don't know. I hope they win. I hope what Scott says is 100% correct. Class is in session tomorrow. Waiting to be stopped. 100% is exactly what I was thinking. Go to the veteran of the rotation and tell him, hey man, like I need 7 of 1 or 2 runs, and I don't know. Put some fun people in the lineup, right? I mean, it's Taijuan Walker. He's got like a 4.7 ERA. He hasn't been that great this year. And he's not
another guy who we were thinking could have been like
Taijuan. Like out of the names that we came up with, any of them that we talked about on our pre-show would have been better than what we've gotten out of Jameson Taijuan. I mean, Senga. I mean, who else did we talk about? We talked about them being in on bigger pitchers. They were never going to do that. But, I mean, Taijuan Walker was my guy. That was in the plans. It was actually the plans.
The plans.
But Yeah, I mean, it hurts. And I know he hasn't been great, but he's been better than what we've seen out of Tyon. So I don't know, man. I just hit tomorrow, and let's hope that class is in session, as Scott said. What do you think?
I'm with you. Just hopefully we get another good Kyle start and classes in session. And that's come to life again. Like you said, maybe some fun guys in the lineup. I'd like to see Miguel Amaya in the lineup. I'd like to see Jared Young in the lineup and not pinch hit for. Just let him roll. Like, what do you have to lose with pinch hitting him? I don't really understand the whole mismatch, against the lefty, especially when you're down by, what was it at the time, 4 runs, 5 runs, 3 or 4 runs at the time. You had 4 or 5 on the board. Not to be overly critical, but like, sometimes you just let these guys roll. You see what they can do, and maybe they come up and they get hot. And like you were saying, he might see some good pitches to hit, being that guys don't have true scouting reports on them. Of course, minor league baseball scouting reports are much better nowadays than they ever have been. But I don't think like your Taiwan Walker is going to go into it and be like, Jared Young, that's a guy I absolutely have to watch for. Like, he's not. He's not thinking that. Even if he just homered the day before, it's like, oh, that was his first career MLB home run. Like, let's go attack this motherfucker. So
I'm with you. Hopefully tomorrow's baseball game is a lot better than the last 2 I had to be on these for. Just a little baseball news. Yankees just threw a perfect game. Thanks, Reese.
Oh, sure.
Domingo or her mom, 27 up, 27 down. Mind you, they played Oakland. So I mean, what do you have to get Tony Kemp out 4 times? I mean,
doesn't count.
I'm just kidding. I'm just giving a hard time. No, that's always impressive. It's one of the most difficult things to ever do in baseball. Just sucks that I had to come against Oakland, because I'm sure there's going to be some idiots out there who truly say what I just said. Scott being one of them. No, I'm just kidding, Scott. Just giving you a hard time tonight, buddy. I know you did after this little Mr. Patrick Wisdom comment coming at me in my DMs already. Hopefully tomorrow's a lot better than tomorrow. That was so wrong. Whatever.
You know what's going to be better tomorrow, Juice?
What's that?
I might not watch the Cubs depending on the start time, because I don't know it either. Because I'll be working during the day, of course. Oh, it's 7:05. But I also might be at the Beloit game against the South.
You're gonna see little Kevin Alcantara, little Alexander Canario.
Yeah.
Love it. Love to see it.
Pitching tomorrow.
Is it Kate Horton?
Yeah.
Get your popcorn ready, man. The kid is he's for real.
I'm excited, dude.
Absolutely for real.
Have you seen him in person yet? Of course, we probably have. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, a couple times. He's worth the price of admission. Not that I pay any admission for that anyway, but how cool will that be for you? They had another promotion too. Michael Arias got promoted from Myrtle Beach. Another one that I'm excited to see. He was fantastic out that way. Eventually, we'll see some Drew Gray too, right? Drew Gray,
yeah.
Real soon. I think he's already with Myrtle Beach.
Canario is like the real shocker to me, though, because I wasn't expecting the rehab stint to be like that. Just perfectly aligns. Like, he's not going to be there that long.
No, and I think too it kind of helps because he'll probably skip Double-A, and he'll probably go right back to Triple-A after that. 100%. It just works out better, and travel for that too, because to go to Tennessee to come back up, he can just come straight across.
Wisconsin, Iowa.
Yeah, it's an easy one. Tonight's show was Cubs on Tap. We are part of OnTap Sports.net. Please make sure you're heading over to OnTap Sportsnet for all your sports and literature needs. But we are one of 2 Chicago Cubs podcasts. Make sure you're heading over to the Dinger Boys on Mondays, watching those guys do a great job. I like to piggyback some of the things they talk about for this show as well, vice versa. Make sure you're heading over there to the Dingers Boys and watching those guys. They do a great job. Bulls, Bears, Hawks tonight. Pick Connor Bedard. How awesome is that? Big ups for the city of Chicago. Joey, too. I know that you're a big online guy, a big betting guy. They didn't take any odds on the fact that he was going to be the number 1 pick. That was shut off, and that's hilarious to me. That's how shoo-in that guy was to be the number 1 pick. How cool was that? But yeah, those guys over. I know our boss Tony is down in Nashville taking in the NHL draft. Mr. Ron Luce will also be throwing out some live content regarding the draft. They made 2 picks tonight, and they have like 7 picks tomorrow, or like 9 picks, something crazy like that. And make sure you're heading over to OnTap Sportsnet to follow all of that. And of course, as we all know, we all have friends who know friends that like the Southsiders. And the Sox on Tap guys do a great job over there. Make sure you're heading over to Sox on Tap. Bring your friends. Tell your friends to bring our friends, and we can be friends over there. Cubs on Tap is this show. You can find it over at OnTap Sportsnet. Thank you, myself, Mr. Loose Juice on Tap. Loose Juice. Nope, I am with Joey Knows Nothing tonight. Not smiling. It's late out here, man. 12:20. I'm sitting here after a recap for one of these games. But here with Joey Knows Nothing. The man, the myth, the legend. We had a great show, great conversation. Make sure you're following him over there. Myself, Juice on Tap. I do so much for this website, and I run around, and so does Joey. Make sure you're getting over to the bet stuff, too. Joey's you're on a heater right now, too, aren't you? I thought I saw something that you're coming into your own picking golf majors. Like,
dude, I have hit – wait a second. Cam Smith. I've hit 4 majors in a row, man.
Yeah, that's impressive. So
I've never won more than 1 in a row before, like this last string, and it's nuts.
Now, mind you, there's huge payouts for that. Head over to OnTap Bets. Make sure you're getting those picks from Mr. Bushman and Joey and Mr. Brandon Suarez. Those guys do a great job with the bets show. Make a little money. Put a little money in your pocket. And that money can go towards buying yourself a wonderful Cubs on Tap t-shirt or a OnTap Sportsnet t-shirt or koozies or whatever you can find in their store. Make sure you're heading over to our store as well at www.ontapsportsnet.com. Joey, thanks again for tonight, man. You always seem to be my baseball savant, my baseball therapist, and I loved having our therapy session tonight. Make sure you're heading over to OnTap Sportsnet to catch all of these and following us, because we have our therapy sessions also back and forth on the Bluebird app. Thanks for tonight, buddy. Any final words before we get out of here?
Thank you, man. Yeah, therapy's good. Therapy's always good. Take care of your mental health for sure, especially when it comes to the Cubs. And in doing so, I like to always say, as we always say, I think this definitely helps our therapy and our mental health. And it's not the fog. Fuck the Cardinals.
And let's go Cubbies.